The mansion's secret. The colossal architectural marvel that stood majestically against the vibrant Phoenix sky, meticulously designed and constructed over 15 years, was not merely a house. It was the physical manifestation of my entire existence, a monument to a love I believed was eternal, forged from every dollar I earned and every dream I dared to whisper. Yet within those very walls, beneath the shimmering heat of the desert sun, lay a chilling truth. The sprawling mansion, the pristine land it commanded, and every single ounce of its immense equity were legally hers alone, a meticulously woven web of deceit designed to ensnare me in a gilded cage of her making. Our marriage, I would soon discover with soul-crushing finality, had been nothing more than a carefully calculated 15-year-long con, a strategic partnership in her relentless pursuit of my fortune, leaving me utterly adrift in a sea of shattered trust and the devastating silence of a life built entirely on lies. This wasn't just about money. It was about the profound, agonizing obliteration of my identity, a betrayal that left me gasping for air in the suffocating heat of a reality I no longer recognized, yearning for the cold embrace of oblivion. My life in suburban Phoenix had, for a long time, been one of quiet, unassuming contentment, a comfortable rhythm broken only by the gentle hum of my server racks. As a 52-year-old software engineer, I found profound satisfaction in the elegant logic of code, in building intricate digital systems that brought order to chaos, a predictable world where problems had solutions. My days were a comfortable rhythm of problem-solving at a respectable tech firm, my mind engaged, my talents appreciated. Evenings were spent in the pleasant warmth of the Arizona desert, the unique, earthy scent of creosote bush after a rare rain, the distant, mournful call of a coyote under a sky ablaze with more stars than any city dweller could imagine. 15 years ago, my world, which had been slowly receding into a quiet solitude after a difficult divorce, had brightened considerably, almost blindingly, when I met Eleanor. She was 49. A charismatic force of nature, a real estate developer whose ambition and vision seemed boundless, her energy contagious. Her laughter, rich and melodious, filled any room she entered, drawing all eyes to her. Her eyes, the color of warm honey, sparkled with an infectious energy, making me feel seen, admired, alive, in a way I hadn't felt since my first marriage ended years ago, leaving me with 2 adult children, a lingering sense of failure, and a cautiously guarded heart. Eleanor was a whirlwind, all sharp intelligence and effortless charm, a dazzling comet tearing through the quiet orbit of my life. She had a way of making grand visions seem not just possible, but inevitable, drawing you into her world with an almost hypnotic pull. We married swiftly, swept up in a romance that felt both passionate and profoundly practical, a perfect synergy of her drive and my stability. She spoke eloquently of partnership, of building a life together, of creating something extraordinary, a legacy that would outlive us. Early in our marriage, she articulated a shared dream, painting a vivid picture with her words, to build a stunning desert mansion, a personal oasis carved from the rugged Arizona landscape, a testament to our enduring love and combined success. This, she promised, would be our legacy, our sanctuary, the ultimate manifestation of our shared journey, a place where we could grow old together, surrounded by beauty. I, successful but unassuming, earned a substantial income, much of which, she gently suggested, should be channeled into this grand project. "It's a once-in-a-lifetime investment, darling," she'd purr, her fingers tracing patterns on my arm. "A chance to truly build something enduring, something for us." My children, already grown and living their own lives from my previous marriage, were a sensitive subject. Eleanor, with subtle suggestions and carefully timed phone calls, had gradually, almost imperceptibly, discouraged my contact with them. "They're so critical, David, always questioning our choices," she'd sigh, her voice laced with concern. "It's disruptive to our peace. This new life we're building, it's ours, darling. We need to protect its sanctity." Or she'd mention their insensitivity to our shared dreams, their lack of understanding for the grand vision we were cultivating. My relationship with them, already strained by my earlier divorce, slowly withered under her constant, almost imperceptible pressure. A slow, insidious erosion of my familial ties that bound me more tightly to her vision, to her world, leaving me increasingly isolated and dependent on her for emotional connection. The mansion's construction was a shared adventure, a thrilling, creative process, or so I believed. I poured my life savings, my substantial income, every bonus, every stock option, and every ounce of my future into it. We spent countless weekends exploring remote plots of land in the Sonoran Desert, the relentless sun baking our skin, the endless expanse of saguaros and red rock inspiring awe, sparking conversations about our future. Eleanor, with her developer's eye, always knew the best spots, identifying parcels with breathtaking views and strategic privacy. She handled the initial land purchase, citing her expertise in real estate trusts to navigate complex zoning laws and property negotiations. "It's all about strategic planning, darling," she'd say, her hand warm and reassuring on my arm, her gaze direct, setting up the right structures to protect our assets, to ensure our future is secure for us. I trusted her implicitly, my technical mind, so adept at logic and code, strangely blind to the complexities of real estate law, happy to defer to her supposed expertise, her unwavering confidence. We selected architects together, pored over blueprints late into the night, the scent of fresh paper and our shared dreams filling the air, illuminated by the soft glow of our bedside lamps. I saw her vibrant sketches, translating them into elegant 3D models on my own software, envisioning every archway, every infinity pool, every panoramic window framing the majestic desert sunsets. I meticulously tracked our expenditures, contributed significantly to every phase of construction, from the foundational concrete poured into the scorching earth to the handcrafted tile work, believing each dollar, each hour, was an investment in our shared future, in our enduring partnership, in our happily ever after. The house rose from the desert floor, a magnificent creation of stone, glass, and steel, reflecting the azure sky, a tangible symbol of our love, or so I thought. A fortress built on sand. By late 2023, the mansion was complete, a breathtaking masterpiece spread across acres of pristine desert. Its clean, minimalist lines mirrored the horizon, its vast windows invited the outside in, framing living art, and its cool travertine floors offered a welcome respite from the intense Arizona heat. We had celebrated our 15th wedding anniversary earlier that year, a quiet, intimate dinner at our favorite restaurant overlooking the city lights. Eleanor radiant in a silk dress, her smile as captivating as the day I met her, her hand warm and reassuring in mine. I felt a profound sense of accomplishment, of belonging, of having finally built something truly enduring. This was it. The life we had built, secure, beautiful, eternal, a dream realized. Then came the argument, a slow burn that escalated into a raging fire, igniting from the ashes of a dream. It began innocently enough, a casual discussion about retirement plans, a topic that usually filled us both with excited anticipation. My company was offering an early buyout, a lucrative package that would allow us to finally enjoy the fruits of our labor, to travel extensively, to savor the mansion we had built to simply be. We could finally relax, Elle. I remember saying, my voice filled with a hopeful lightness, a sense of profound peace settling over me. Spend our days by the pool, explore those national parks you always talked about, finally write that book you always dreamed of. Eleanor, typically so enthusiastic about future plans, so animated by new possibilities, grew strangely quiet. Her honey eyes, usually so expressive, seemed distant, almost cold, like polished stones. She took a slow, deliberate sip of her Cabernet, the clink of ice in her glass, unnaturally loud in the suddenly tense air of our living room. "David," she began, her voice calm, a chillingly even tone that raised the tiny hairs on my arms, a premonition of dread tightening in my gut. "I think we need to be realistic about our assets, about my assets." I frowned, confused, a knot forming in my stomach. "What do you mean, Eleanor? We're set. The mansion, my retirement package, your real estate investments. We're more than comfortable. We have everything." I reached across the glass coffee table, wanting to take her hand to reassure her, but she subtly pulled away. She smiled then, a small, knowing, utterly devoid of warmth. A predatory curve of her lips that I had never seen before, a mask slipping to reveal a terrifying, empty void beneath. It was a smile that stripped away 15 years of perceived love, leaving only a visceral, suffocating terror. "No, David," she corrected, her voice still unnervingly calm, each word articulated with chilling precision. "Your name is on nothing. Not the land, not the deed, Not a single trust document related to this property. I systematically orchestrated the entire process over 15 years, from the initial land purchase to the final deed, using a complex web of blind trusts, shell corporations, and offshore accounts. I made sure your name never appeared on any legal document. Your contributions, your income, every single dollar you thought you were investing in our future, it was all funneled into my portfolio. This has always been my project, my asset. This mansion is legally and financially mine alone. My mind reeled, trying to grasp the enormity of her words, the impossible cruelty of them. My world, my understanding of reality, imploded around me. Our marriage, she continued, her voice chillingly devoid of emotion, a flat, mechanical drone, was a strategic partnership, David. A calculated long con, if you will. You had a substantial, consistent income, easily leveraged, and you were trusting, predictable. You were happy to defer to my expertise. It allowed me to build this empire, to secure my financial future, without any messy marital entanglements, without having to share what was rightfully mine. She then reached into her elegant leather briefcase, which she had casually placed beside her on the sofa, and pushed a thick stack of legal documents across the glass table towards me. Deeds, trust agreements, offshore bank statements, intricate corporate filings, all meticulously organized, all bearing only her name, her signature, her complex, impenetrable financial structures. There it was, in black and white, irrefutable proof of her monstrous deception, a physical testament to the meticulously constructed lie of my life. The air in the room grew thin, suffocating, each breath a struggle against an invisible weight. I felt a physical pain, as if a fist had plunged into my chest, tearing out my heart, leaving a gaping, bloody hole. 15 years. 15 years of love, partnership, shared dreams, reduced to a calculated long con, a strategic partnership. My children, whom she had slowly, subtly pushed away, now made perfect, sickening sense. She hadn't wanted any competition for my resources, any emotional attachments that might distract me from her grand scheme, any independent voices that might raise questions. The entire edifice of my life, my love, my future, crumbled around me, leaving me utterly blindsided, gasping for air in the sudden, desolate wasteland of her truth. The scent of our celebratory dinner, usually a comfort, now tasted like ash in my mouth, acrid and bitter, a cruel mockery of the joy I thought we shared. The woman I loved, the woman I had built a life with, was a phantom, her existence a cruel, calculated fiction, leaving me utterly adrift in a sea of devastating lies and a silence that screamed of betrayal. The realization hit me like a physical blow, stripping the air from my lungs, leaving me gasping for a breath that would not come, drowning in the bitter reality of her deceit. I don't remember much of the next few hours, only a blur of searing pain and disorienting shock. The polished travertine floors, the panoramic views of the desert, the meticulously chosen artwork that now seemed to mock me. Everything that had once signified our shared success now felt like an elaborate, mocking stage set for her cruel performance. Eleanor, after her chilling confession, had simply gone to bed, her movements unhurried, almost serene, leaving me alone in the vast, echoing silence of the dining room, surrounded by the crumpled remains of my life. My mind, usually so logical and ordered, was a chaotic storm of disbelief, anger, and a profound, agonizing foolishness. How could I have been so blind, so utterly naive? How could I, a man who built complex systems, have missed every single sign, every subtle manipulation, every red flag that now seemed so glaringly obvious in hindsight? The shame was a burning brand, searing through my very soul, leaving a festering wound that threatened to consume me. As the sun began to paint the desert sky with hues of bruised purple and angry orange, a mocking spectacle of beauty, I felt a desperate, primal urge to find something, anything, to grasp onto, to make sense of the senseless. My software engineer's brain, despite the emotional devastation, began to kick into gear, searching for data, for proof, for the underlying code of her deception. I stumbled to my home office, the short walk feeling like a marathon. My legs numb, my fingers trembling as I opened my laptop. I started searching through old emails, bank statements, tax returns, property tax records, any digital document that could shed light on our finances, on the mansion's true ownership. The deeper I dug, the more the horrifying truth crystallized. Each new detail a fresh stab of betrayal. Every joint account was, in fact, a single account with her name. My income automatically routed through various payment processors and then, invisibly, into her personal, often offshore accounts. My retirement savings, which I believed were growing steadily, had been systematically siphoned, replaced by phantom statements, cleverly forged projections that promised a future that would never be mine. I spent days in this feverish, solitary investigation, a hermit in my own home, fueled by lukewarm coffee and a gnawing sense of violation, a profound spiritual sickness. The mansion, once my dream home, became my gilded prison, each opulent detail, each custom fixture, a fresh reminder of her insidious theft, her calculated cruelty. I didn't leave, didn't eat proper meals, barely slept, consumed by the relentless pursuit of understanding. Eleanor, sensing my growing understanding, sensing the shift in my desperate grief to something more dangerous, became cold, distant, her presence in the house a silent, chilling judgment, her honey eyes now devoid of any warmth, reflecting only a calculating observation. "You'll find nothing, David," she'd say, her voice flat, emotionless, delivered with a casual confidence that infuriated me. "I'm a professional. This was airtight. You signed no documents, you trusted me. Your mistake." Her unwavering confidence, even in the face of my mounting despair, only amplified my sense of powerlessness, but also began to fuel a nascent, burning anger. A desperate, fleeting impulse, born of fear and a desperate need for incontrovertible proof, seized me. I knew my word against hers, particularly after 15 years of her carefully constructed narrative, would mean little in a legal battle. One evening, after she had made another dismissive remark about our marriage contract, her voice laced with a predatory smugness, her eyes gleaming with triumph, I picked up my phone. Without thinking, acting on instinct, I hit record, placing it subtly on the table between us, partially obscured by a stack of blueprints for a non-existent project. I asked her to repeat her explanation, feigning confusion, pushing her to elaborate on the strategic partnership, on how she had managed to separate all the assets so completely, so flawlessly, drawing her into her own trap. And she did. Calmly, chillingly, without a shred of remorse, she detailed the complex web of trusts, the offshore accounts, the systematic redirection of my funds, the deliberate exclusion of my name from any legal document related to the property. Her voice, devoid of remorse, described her calculated long con, her systematic exploitation of my income, my trust, my love. Her words, now captured, were a cold, hard dagger, but also my lifeline, a golden thread in the labyrinth of her lies. The depth of the betrayal plunged me into an existential crisis, a profound question of my very identity. Who was I? The trusting husband, the devoted partner, the successful engineer, or the naive fool, the unwitting accomplice in my own financial ruin, a puppet dancing to her tune? My relationship with my adult children, already strained by Eleanor's machinations, suffered further. They struggled to understand why I had allowed myself to be so thoroughly exploited, why I had pushed them away so easily. Their disappointment, though unspoken, was palpable, a collateral damage that twisted the knife deeper into my already wounded heart, making me question my own judgment as a father, as a man. I was utterly alone, adrift in a sea of her lies, stripped of my financial security, my emotional bearings, and my very identity, a hollow shell in a house that was no longer mine. One morning, after another sleepless night staring at the desert stars through the mansion's vast windows, their beauty now a source of torment, a cold, unwavering clarity began to form amidst the chaos of my despair. This wasn't just about my personal loss. It was about exposing a dangerous predator, a master manipulator who had systematically destroyed my life, who would undoubtedly destroy others if left unchecked. I couldn't let her get away with it, not after what she had done. My anguish, once paralyzing, began to transform into a fierce, righteous anger, a burning need for justice that eclipsed my shame, overriding every other emotion. I needed help, professional help, to fight this intricate web of deceit, this monstrous betrayal. My logical mind, finally emerging from the fog of betrayal, began to construct a new path forward, a plan for survival and retribution, a path towards reclaiming my shattered life. My first step, taken with trembling hands and a grim determination, was to contact a local real estate attorney, Mark Jensen, whose reputation for tackling complex property disputes was legendary in Phoenix legal circles. His office, located in a modest building away from the glitzy downtown high-rises, was surprisingly understated, filled with stacks of legal briefs and the comforting scent of old paper, a stark contrast to the opulence of the mansion. Mark, a man in his late 50s with a kind but world-weary face, listened patiently as I recounted the horrifying tale, his initial professional impassivity slowly giving way to a quiet outrage, a tightening of his jaw. He examined the stack of legal documents Eleanor had given me, his brow furrowing with each intricate page, recognizing the sinister architecture of her fraud. "This is sophisticated, David," he murmured, shaking his head slowly. "Very sophisticated. She's clearly a professional, a master of deception. The trusts are layered, almost impenetrable. The offshore accounts are meticulously designed to obscure, but not unbreakable. There's always a weakness, a thread we can pull." He then referred me to Sarah Miller, a forensic accountant he frequently collaborated with on complex financial crimes. Sarah was a whirlwind of energy, her small frame belying a sharp, incisive mind that moved at warp speed. Her office, a stark, modern space filled with multiple computer screens displaying complex financial algorithms and intricate data visualizations, felt like a high-tech war room, a place where numbers told stories of greed and deception. I laid out everything. My bank statements, tax returns from the past 15 years, salary stubs, investment records, and critically, the secret recording of Eleanor's confession, her chilling words now a tangible weapon in our arsenal. Sarah's eyes, sharp and intelligent behind her stylish glasses, lit up with a grim determination, a glint of recognition of the challenge. "This is going to be a deep dive, David," she warned, her voice crisp. "She's good, very good, but financial fraud always leaves a trail. It might be faint, buried deep, but it's there. We'll find it." The investigation became a painstaking, meticulous reconstruction of 15 years of my life, viewed through a devastating new lens. Sarah immersed herself in my financial history, a mountain of digital and paper records, cross-referencing every deposit, every withdrawal, every investment, every single penny. She meticulously traced the flow of my income, my bonuses, my inherited funds from a distant aunt, documenting how each dollar supposedly destined for our shared life, for our mansion, was systematically diverted. She uncovered a complex web of shell corporations registered in various states, Delaware, Nevada, Wyoming, each one funneling money through an intricate series of transactions, a dizzying maze of transfers and retransfers, before disappearing into offshore accounts in places like the Cayman Islands and Belize, perfectly designed to obscure the ultimate beneficiary, Eleanor Sterling. The scale of the deception was breathtaking, sickening. Over $3.5 million of my earnings, my entire retirement savings, systematically stolen, brick by painstaking brick, over a decade and a half, right under my nose. "She treated your income like her personal ATM, David," Sarah stated, her voice tight with professional indignation, her finger pointing at damning spreadsheets on her screen. "Every penny you earned, every asset you acquired, she found a way to siphon it, to make it hers. She was building an empire, and you were the unwitting, indispensable financier." Meanwhile, Mark focused on the legal aspects of the property. He confirmed Eleanor's sole ownership of the land and the mansion through an intricate series of layered trusts, each one designed to shield her from any claims, to create an impenetrable legal fortress. My name literally appeared nowhere on any property document, not even as an interested party. He also began to investigate Eleanor's real estate business associates, discreetly interviewing former partners and employees, discovering a pattern of questionable transactions, inflated appraisals, and skillfully manipulated paperwork, hinting at ancillary paperwork fraud that extended beyond our marital home, implicating others in her schemes, widening the circle of her deceit, exposing her as a true professional criminal, not just a wife gone rogue. The collateral damage was extensive, stretching beyond my immediate betrayal, a web that ensnared many. The emotional toll during this discovery phase was immense, a constant, relentless assault on my already shattered psyche. Each new revelation from Sarah, each cold, hard number proving her monstrous deceit, felt like another physical punch to the gut, leaving me gasping. The shame, the profound feeling of foolishness, threatened to consume me whole, to drag me into an abyss of self-loathing. I spent nights pacing the empty rooms of the mansion, now a gilded cage, its luxurious finishes mocking my pain. The desert winds outside whispering Eleanor's chilling confession, rattling the windows like restless ghosts. I replayed every conversation, every tender moment, every shared dream, now reinterpreting them through the prism of her calculated con, her predatory intent. The lavish anniversary dinners, the thoughtful gifts, the seemingly heartfelt promises, all were meticulously crafted performances, lines from a script designed to manipulate to extract maximum financial contribution from her mark. The illusion of our love, once my deepest comfort, now became a source of searing pain, a phantom limb that throbbed with agony, a constant reminder of what I had lost. I also, tentatively, began to reconnect with my children, a difficult process made even harder by their lingering resentment and their own confusion. I confessed the full extent of Eleanor's betrayal, the intricate web of lies that had kept me from them, the devastating impact on my life, my own blindness. Their initial anger, directed at me for my perceived weakness, for my prolonged absence, slowly softened into a fragile understanding, a shared grief for the father they had lost, and the recognition that I too was a victim, albeit a complicit one. This fragile reconnection, however painful, became a crucial anchor in my unraveling world, a reminder that genuine love, unlike Eleanor's, was real, enduring, and worth fighting for. As the full scope of Eleanor's deception came into devastating focus, my initial despair transformed into a burning, unwavering resolve. This wasn't just about recovering my money, it was about reclaiming my dignity, my identity, and ensuring that Eleanor faced the full consequences of her monumental betrayal. My life had been systematically dismantled by her calculated cruelty, and now I would systematically rebuild it, brick by painful brick, starting with justice. The planning phase with Mark and Sarah was meticulous, strategic, a concerted effort to dismantle Eleanor's empire of lies. We decided on a two-pronged attack, criminal charges and a civil lawsuit. Mark, his voice firm, his legal mind sharp, outlined the strategy in his quiet office, the scent of leather and old books providing a grounding counterpoint to the enormity of our task. We'll file criminal charges for grand theft, fraud, and money laundering. This is clearly a pattern of systemic organized crime, not just marital misconduct. The state will take this very seriously, especially given the duration and the amount involved. The criminal route, he explained, would ensure that Eleanor faced the full weight of the state's justice system, facing prison time for her actions. Simultaneously, we would pursue a civil lawsuit for unjust enrichment and marital fraud, aiming to recover every penny she had stolen and claim additional damages for the profound emotional distress she had inflicted upon me, the years of psychological torment. The secret recording of Eleanor's confession would be our ace in the hole, a piece of evidence so damning, so irrefutable, it would cut through any defense she could possibly concoct, her own words a sword turned against her. I underwent intensive therapy, grappling with the complex layers of betrayal, anger, and the existential crisis of my shattered past. My therapist, a kind, empathetic woman named Dr. Evelyn Reed, helped me articulate my pain, my outrage, without letting it overwhelm me, to speak my truth with clarity and power, to command my own narrative. I learned to identify the subtle red flags I had missed, the psychological manipulations at play, not to blame myself, but to understand the insidious mechanisms of such elaborate cons, to regain agency. I found strength in my vulnerability, slowly rebuilding my identity not as a foolish victim, but as a resilient survivor, a man forged in fire, unbowed and unbroken. Every meeting with Mark and Sarah, every review of the damning evidence strengthened my conviction. Eleanor Sterling had stolen my life, my trust, my peace. Now I would take back my truth and ensure her carefully constructed facade crumbled to dust, leaving her with nothing but the cold, hard reality of her own making, her own cruel choices, her own self-inflicted ruin. The legal process, slow and deliberate, moved forward. Each step a small victory against the overwhelming odds, a slow grind towards justice. Criminal charges were filed, sending shockwaves through Eleanor's professional circles in the Phoenix real estate market. The civil suit followed, a relentless pursuit of her hidden assets, exposing her financial dealings to the harsh light of legal scrutiny. Eleanor, initially dismissive, confident in her airtight scheme, quickly realized the gravity of her situation. Her lawyers, a team of high-priced, aggressive litigators, tried every trick in the book. They attempted to paint me as a disgruntled, scorned husband, exaggerating claims, distorting facts, attempting to discredit my character, to turn the narrative against me. But Mark and Sarah, meticulous in their preparation, had anticipated every move, countering each attack with precise, irrefutable evidence. The trial, held in a bustling Phoenix courthouse, became a high-profile spectacle, drawing national attention due to the scale and duration of the fraud. The dramatic betrayal at its heart. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, and the story became a cautionary tale about marital financial fraud. Eleanor's carefully cultivated reputation as a savvy businesswoman now hanging by a thread, dissolving under the intense media glare. The courtroom was packed daily, a palpable tension in the air, a hushed anticipation for each new revelation. My testimony was grueling, an agonizing public excavation of my deepest wounds, each word a fresh cut. I sat on the witness stand, the weight of the court's gaze heavy upon me, and recounted the 15 years of my life, the innocent beginnings of our love, the shared dream of the mansion, the systematic draining of my finances, and the brutal, shattering confession. My voice, though strained, was clear, filled with a quiet, searing anger, articulating the profound betrayal, the agony of discovering her elaborate con, the cold, calculating cruelty of her actions. I detailed the shattered dreams, the existential crisis, the relentless emotional toll, the erosion of my very soul, leaving no detail unsaid. Then came the moment that turned the tide, the undeniable truth, the secret recording of Eleanor's confession. Mark, with a grim flourish, introduced it as evidence, his voice calm but firm. The courtroom fell silent, a collective hush descending as the audio played, filling the room with Eleanor's own voice. Her calm, chilling tones filled the room, detailing her strategic partnership, her systematic manipulation of trusts and offshore accounts, her utter lack of remorse, her admission that our marriage was nothing more than a financial transaction. The effect was devastating. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Eleanor, initially maintaining a steely composure, visibly flinched, her face draining of color, her predatory smile replaced by a look of sheer, petrified panic, her carefully constructed mask finally shattering. Her lawyers, caught completely off guard, scrambled, objecting wildly, but there was no denying her own words, her own cold, calculating voice, preserved forever. Sarah Miller, the forensic accountant, followed, her meticulous presentation detailing the complex financial web Eleanor had woven. Using clear, understandable charts and graphs projected onto large screens, she illustrated the flow of my $3.5 million, tracking every dollar from my paychecks and retirement accounts to Eleanor's various hidden entities and offshore holdings. She exposed the shell corporations, the phantom statements, the intricate layering of trusts, painting an irrefutable picture of systematic theft and money laundering. Her testimony, dry and factual, was utterly damning, leaving no room for doubt about the extent and intent of Eleanor's criminal enterprise, systematically dismantling every one of Eleanor's lies with cold, hard numbers. Eleanor's defense, attempting to portray her as an ambitious businesswoman who merely managed assets creatively, or to argue the recording was illegally obtained, crumbled under the weight of the evidence and Mark's relentless cross-examination. Her once charming charisma now seemed manipulative, her confidence, arrogance, making her appear truly monstrous. She seemed smaller, her carefully constructed persona dissolving into a cornered animal's desperation, her facade utterly destroyed. The jury, visibly moved by my testimony and the undeniable evidence, their faces reflecting deep thought and moral outrage, returned a swift, decisive verdict after only a few hours of deliberation. Guilty. The word, clear and resonant from the jury foreman's lips, echoed through the stunned silence of the courtroom, a wave of profound, cleansing relief washing over me, so powerful it almost brought me to my knees, leaving me momentarily breathless. Tears, hot and heavy, finally streamed down my face, tears of release, of vindication, of a burden finally lifted, a scream of triumph after years of silent suffering. Eleanor Sterling was found guilty on all criminal counts: grand theft, fraud, and money laundering. She was sentenced to 7 years in state prison, the judge emphasizing the systematic nature of her crimes, the long duration of the betrayal, and the devastating impact on her victim, a just punishment for her monstrous deceit. She was also ordered to pay $4 million in restitution to me, the $3.5 million stolen, plus an additional $500,000 for emotional distress and legal fees, a measure of financial justice for the years she had taken. The public exposure was relentless and absolute. The story became a national sensation, covered by major news outlets and legal journals, a cautionary tale about marital financial fraud that resonated deeply with a public grappling with issues of trust and betrayal in an increasingly complex financial world. Eleanor's reputation as a savvy businesswoman was utterly destroyed, replaced by her new moniker, the mansion con artist, her name forever synonymous with greed and deceit, a cautionary legend. My face, once anonymized in my quiet life, became a symbol for victims, my story a stark warning, a testament to endurance, transforming my personal agony into a powerful public lesson, a voice for those who had been silenced. The path to closure was not a swift, easy one, but a complex, ongoing journey of rebuilding and redefining, a slow, often painful, reevaluation of everything I believed, every truth I held dear. The emotional scars remained, a permanent etching on my soul, a reminder of the fragility of trust and the depths of human deceit, a faint, persistent ache that would never fully disappear. But they were no longer open wounds. They were fading, healing, becoming a testament to my resilience, to the strength I had found within myself, a testament to survival, to a future reclaimed. I learned that while some wounds never fully disappear, true healing comes from reclaiming your narrative, from fighting for justice, and from transforming your pain into a source of strength and support for others. The $4 million in restitution, meticulously recovered from the forced sale of the mansion after various liens and legal costs were settled, and Eleanor's frozen offshore accounts, was a profound financial victory. It allowed me to pay off all legal fees, rebuild my depleted retirement savings, and finally buy a new home. A modest, comfortable house in a quiet, established neighborhood, far from the grandiose emptiness and haunting memories of the mansion. This time, my name was the only one on the deed, a tangible symbol of my reclaimed independence, a solid foundation built on truth. I carefully, patiently rebuilt my relationships with my estranged adult children, explaining the years of manipulation, seeking their forgiveness for my blindness, for the distance I had allowed. We slowly reconnected, finding a new, honest foundation built on shared understanding and mutual support. A true family at last. The experience, though devastating, had forged a new purpose within me, a fire that burned with a quiet, unwavering resolve. I couldn't simply move on, knowing others could suffer similar fates, could fall prey to similar deceptions. I became an advocate for marital asset protection laws, helping draft legislation for greater transparency and legal recourse in cases of spousal financial fraud, working with lawmakers to close loopholes that Eleanor had so expertly exploited. I shared my story on national platforms, speaking at conferences, to legal aid groups, to financial planning seminars, becoming a voice for the countless individuals who had been similarly exploited, who had lost their futures to calculated betrayal. My voice, once silenced by grief and shame, became a powerful instrument for change, a beacon of hope for others navigating the complex, often treacherous landscape of modern relationships and financial trust. I learned that while some wounds never fully disappear, true healing comes from reclaiming your narrative, from fighting for justice, and from transforming your pain into a source of strength and support for others, ensuring that your suffering was not in vain. My future, once so bleak and uncertain, was now mine to shape, built on the solid bedrock of truth, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to a life lived with integrity, a life defined by my own choices, not by her lies, a legacy of enduring strength and renewed purpose. My dream home was indeed built, but this time it was constructed on truth, from the foundation up, with my own hands, and it was truly mine.